Welcome to It's Your Move, a weekly podcast where we talk about the ever-changing world of work
Finding satisfaction in what you do.
and laughing through it all as you figure it out. Because wherever you are, it's your
your
move.
Well, here we are. This is unusual.
Happy sunset.
Yes, happy sunset. So
Usually-
it's not a great one tonight. We decided to try a sunset version of the It's Your Move podcast.
Yes. And let's talk about why sunsets are such good symbolism for us.
Well, sunset obviously is a big deal here on the west coast of Florida. And so as many sunsets as I can see as possible has always been a goal of mine. And even when I am in Cleveland too, I would always do sunset drives, and sunset was just a big time for me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How about you?
Same thing for me. It's very comforting and good to close a chapter. It feels very symbolic. Kind of gives a little bit of pomp and circumstance to the day rather than it just being like another day ending. It's like a chapter closing,
Right. And
And-
rather than just going home from work and watching TV or
Uh-huh.
whatever, just to only do another day, it makes it feel special because it reminds you of the day that you just had, and you can do a little bit of reflection. And I think it's great from that perspective.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about it as we prepared to do a sunset one
Mhm.
is how tired I am compared to the ones that we do in the morning. And that after a day of work, trying to figure out what is going on in this
Mhm.
changing world of work, it wears you out.
And it does kind of make me though, like, it's very symbolic to me too of the changing world of work, of us coming straight from our day jobs right to the beach to work on your side hustle. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like, it's not this linear path really anymore, which actually gets me to kind of our topic for the day, which we are starting this as we're calling it Sunset Stories, because we've been getting some people that have been wanting to ask us questions. And so we want to listen to their stories and then talk about how we would best provide guidance. If you have anything that you want to talk about, feel free to send it to us and we will talk about it on the podcast and see how we can offer any kind of assistance.
You can reach us on email or message us, or if you do want to subscribe to the newsletter, that's
Maybe
another
we'll
way
put
to
the
reach
link.
us. Put the link in.
Yeah, we'll link at the end of this.
And then you'll
Subscribe.
be on our mailing list.
Perfect. Well, should I read from our listener?
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay, so our sunset story this week, a little bit different. Both very close, so that's confusing. Hello. I've been listening to your podcast, and I'm curious whether what I'm experiencing is something other people are dealing with too. I'm in my mid 30s, and on paper, my career looks fine. I've worked in marketing, product management, operations, and now I'm doing a role that blends a bit of all three. Every few years, I seem to move into a new area because that's where the opportunities are, or because a new technology changes what companies need. The problem is that I no longer know how to answer the question, what do you do, or even where is your career headed? Everyone talks about being adaptable, learning new skills, and staying relevant. I've done all of that, but sometimes it feels less like I'm building a career and more like I'm constantly reinventing myself. I see people with clear professional identities, accountant, lawyer, designer, engineer, and I wonder whether I've missed something by becoming a generalist. How do you know whether you're thoughtfully evolving with the world of work or just drifting from one opportunity to the next? Is there such a thing as a coherent career path, or is that idea becoming outdated? Thanks, a confused generalist.
Well, and I think that really gets us to why we've been talking about these things in the first place. Because if you have a profession, a lot of these questions you're not really asking because you just go and do whatever that profession is. So what became confusing was when we chose paths that were business. Really, in the end, it's all related to business. That is more of a generalist type thing that we couldn't necessarily then describe even what that is for ourselves or to other people. So, like I would always say, accountant or doctor, lawyer, those professions, it's just easy because there's a path that you're on, even though there's some deviation in each of those. But anyway, I think that's what got us here was being the generalist.
Yeah, and I
So-
think that you didn't really necessarily always think you were going to be a generalist. You know, it's like if you start to work in HR or something and you think, okay, well, I'm going to be helping employees with their benefits. I'm going to be working with different situations that arise in the workplace, all of that. But as the world of work changes so fast, it's almost like most positions now you're kind of becoming a generalist because things are moving so quickly.
You have to be constantly adapting and learning, and the jobs are changing so quickly right now that it's hard to get your bearings. Part of why we keep talking about this stuff, because it changes from week to week, day.
And I think the biggest thing that stood out to me in here is that everybody says to be adaptable. All of that is very true. You have to really just stay as adaptable as you can and try to keep up with the times because you really don't want to get left behind. But I also think that that can lead to some career frustration or some career confusion because before it was much more of a straight line of I'm here and this is what I'm doing in a company and where is my career going? Well, there's a very clear path. Now nobody knows what's happening at all. So it's like you can't really set your sights on one career path because it's just not going to happen that way. Like again, maybe if you're a doctor or something that does have a much more clear-cut path, but when most of the world of work is becoming semi-generalist, like you put in your email, it's also a little bit freeing because you're not just locking yourself into one thing. You're also staying really adaptable and you're staying very malleable that these companies are going to think, okay, this is the type of person I want to keep around because I can see that they've ebbed and flowed through all of these transitions. So while it might not be a straight line, it's also a really exciting journey because you never really know what's coming next, but that might not be what you have signed up for or what you thought you were signing up for when entering that position.
Well, and it really does make me wonder about even the word career, because how many jobs do they say that people are going to have? 12. So to pick a path and think now you're going to just go down that path, I just don't think that's realistic. It probably never was.
Right. And I think that one of the things that was in that email that also stood out to me was when people ask where my career path is going, people ask that out of, it's just a question that people are, I guess, curious about, but also that usually comes from a lot of older people who maybe followed a career path and it worked for them. But when people are asking you about your career path, we've learned this really great technique, which is that you just pretend you know exactly where you're going and everything's great. And that's worked out really great for us. So, like, I've had people in my life be like, oh, you're switching careers? Where do you think that path is going to take you? And we always just respond, it's awesome. It's great. Couldn't be better. You know, like this, it's all going exactly how I thought it would. Because in reality, it's nobody's business. They want to know because they're just curious about, you know, what are you actually doing?
To be, you know, they want you to have some certainty,
security, right?
You have security, but we're now learning that there really isn't security anymore.
Right.
And the idea of a career path and a stable job, it just doesn't exist. Really.
No.
So it's all in your own mind. And then I think very loving people that want to help just can't because they haven't experienced what you've experienced. So that's why it always gets back to getting your grounding. What do you need to do to know and to believe that you're on the path that is the right path for you?
And I know a lot of people get frustrated when it comes to becoming a generalist. Like when you're in sales and it's become just so broad and ever changing that your career just kind of feels like, instead of like a straight line, just like a ball of yarn. You know what I mean? It's just like you're just constantly kind of going around and around and around.
Yeah.
And you don't know where it's leading or what's even happening. And I know that that can get frustrating, but something we talk about here a lot is it's all what you're making of it in your own mind. Being a generalist, while it's ever changing and confusing, and it's hard to be very specific about where your career is headed, it can also be something that you're saying like, well, that means there's more opportunity for me. It means that maybe I'll have more potential to work from home, or as my life changes, my career will change. And that's a good thing, not a scary thing.
Not locked into something.
Because I think conversely, people get really when they enter really specific fields too, and I talk about this in my coaching also, is when people enter specific fields. Like if you go to school to be a nurse, or you go to school to be a doctor or something, these really concrete, kind of straight line career paths for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part. Sometimes people hit 30 and have an existential crisis in a different way of, oh my God, I've chosen such a specific career path and I'm qualified to do this one thing. And I can do it in different states and I could do it in different ways, but this is what I know how to do. And this is what I will be doing every day for the rest of my life. And they hit that existential crisis on the same side of being like, oh, well, now what does my life look like? So, first of all, to the person who sent this in, being in your 30s is just very confusing anyway. I know that that's a really confusing time, but I also think that even I know that you're having a little bit of almost career regret, thinking maybe I should have chosen something that was a little bit more linear, but at the same time, there's not a lot of comfort in that either. Everything is really uncomfortable, especially when you've been in your career for like 10 years now. You've been in the workforce for a little bit of time, you've seen it, and you're like, is this what I really want? Or am I just chasing this kind of dead end that I thought I wanted?
Right. And I think that brings us back to the theme that we keep coming back to is being entrepreneurial, even when you have a job, is, thinking about, okay, where's the value that I add, who I serve, what problems can I solve? All of those things are good, whether you have your own company or whether you're working within a company, because you're always adding value, and that's always going to be valuable to the company and valuable to your own company. But it's interesting as we've been talking about this with jobs and how just the whole idea of jobs is really changing. Thinking about yourself at any stage and thinking about back to how you're wired and then where you can help somebody else, I think is really important. And that is like you're never done with that, and trying to figure out what to do with the tools that you've gathered so far, right?
Right.
So this person who sounds like they've been in support position. So I talk a lot about whether you're going to be sales or support, but it's really, front lines versus more behind the scenes kinds of jobs and understanding how you're wired and then who your customer is. If you have an internal job, your customers are the people in the company. If you're a salesperson, your customers are outside the company. So I think kind of splitting that into client facing versus support helps you kind of define where you're trying to go.
I think that when this person is writing into us, this is a very natural time to kind of start questioning, like, am I doing the right work for me? Because I think that in your 20s, especially when you're in school and everything, you are just kind of gung ho about making money and getting a career going. And that existential time for a lot of people comes a little bit later, in your 30s. And so, what would you say to this person if she was getting really frustrated about being in that kind of generalist mode and is saying, actually, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to go back to school to be a nurse. This is what I want a more straight line kind of career. What would you say to that?
I would want to take them through a process kind of like we've developed with the coaching, right? That is helping them to really define all of that before they just head off a different direction. It sounds good initially, but you've also built a lot of skills and you've learned a lot of things that are in your toolkit already. Do you want to really go start all over again? And that you can, but that takes a lot of soul searching and really kind of figuring out what about that is better than the path that you're currently on.
I totally agree. And I was talking about this today, actually, at my job, that I was saying I was having a little bit of an existential crisis myself this weekend. I went to Disney and I was there and I was like, oh my God, I worked here for 7 years and I built connections, relationships. I had so many different jobs. I had got so much experience in that specific field of working in a theme park. And then one day decided I was going to up and leave. And it's like, those are the things that I wasn't really considering when I was leaving my position. I was really unhappy in the work that I was doing and I wanted to use my skill set a lot better. And that was the thing was I knew that changing my career was the right move for me because I had done a lot of introspection and a lot of, okay, if I enter this career field that I'm about to switch into and leave this old one, is the grass actually going to be greener? Or is it just my mind thinking, oh, I don't like this thing? And this is a new opportunity. So I'm just going to go chase that. Because I've seen so many people that have left Disney and been like, bye, I'm leaving. And then 2 months later, they're back working because they got to the new spot that they wanted to go to and they realized, okay, wait, no, actually, I had it pretty good, or I actually really liked what I was doing. I just didn't really know what I wanted and who I was. And so that is kind of I would give the same advice is to really do the soul searching. If you are going to make a career shift, you 100% can. And I will say it's very freeing. It's really great to just like start over. It's fun and it's very scary and it's a lot of hard work and it's full of tons of ups and downs, but you can totally do it if that's what you want. But I think my biggest advice there is just be really, really sure that this is the thing that fits you and is the career that you should be pursuing and not just, oh, I'm not happy in this thing. And I think I could be happy doing this other thing, you know?
And I almost think you need to figure out how to be happy in the thing that you're doing before you can really decide what's next. And that requires some turnaround of the story in your head. I think that example of Disney is such a great one. And we had such good conversations about it when you took the last role that you were in. And we talked about, do you want to be on the front lines? Do you want to be with the customer or do you want to be more behind the scenes?
Right.
And a lot of times within companies, they're like, well, you're going to be both. You're going to take care of the clients and you'll have some role with that, but you're also going to be support and you're going to have to do these reports. Well, those are two pretty different things. It doesn't mean that in all jobs, there isn't some combination of that. But really deciding between the trade-off of being client facing and kind of out there and taking the risk that it is to deal with clients every day versus being behind the scenes and letting somebody else do that. And that was where I think it was a really interesting learning. And that's why I don't think any of it is wrong. It's all part of the journey. And you learned so much from that. But that definitely was one of those jobs that was kind of this combination that it's really hard to pull off.
And I think sometimes in a career, you have an aha moment of, okay, this is not what I want to do. Like, I think that if you're unhappy about certain aspects of the job that you're in, there's ways to alleviate that. And you can always look for another job in the same field. You can always look for this person when they're a generalist, but they have a lot of different kind of experience. Maybe finding something that fits your lifestyle a little bit better will improve one aspect of your life. And it's not taking such a huge leap to change a career, but it will make you feel a little bit more satisfied or work, like you said, being entrepreneurial, working on something of your own and growing a business or something, working on your crafts, choosing something else to focus on rather than just kind of dwelling on, is this the right career for me?
Right.
And, I think it's a good thing to dwell on, but maybe see if you can make small changes first and see if that improves it. But I also think there came a point in my Disney career that I said, know that this is not the right field for me to be working in because it's not I think it was playing to my strengths in a lot of ways, but I wasn't feeling self-actualized. I wasn't feeling really fulfilled in my career. So I think if you have one of those moments of like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life, and this is not what I'm meant to do, and I want to figure out what is right for me, maybe that is kind of the aha moment. And that was the moment that I had at Disney.
Well, I mean, that's what's so interesting and why, like, I even think the words need to change. Like, it's work. No matter what you're doing, even if it's something that you absolutely love, you're doing work. And there are many times that you're doing the work and you're thinking, what is the point of this? This is terrible. I don't even like doing that. It's all the things that you're kind of saying in your head, right? About work, about doing something. You know what I mean? Because you're like, no, I'd rather be just sitting on the beach. But would you really rather? I mean,
That's the thing, is it is leading into that whole grass is always greener mentality. And I'm not saying the person who wrote in is thinking the grass is always greener. These are totally natural questions to be asking in your career. But I also think that we all want these lives and jobs that are seemingly perfect. Like, we want to have the perfect work life balance. We want to make a lot of money, not kind of have to work too hard. We want to be able to live our lives and have a lot of fun and all those things. But it's like, again, something sometimes has to give.
Everything is trade-offs.
Exactly. There's give and take in everything. My brother has a work from home job, and maybe it's not his passion, but it's something that allows him a lot of great flexibility to be able to work from here, work from Ohio, really kind of have that life balance that you're looking. So again, even though it might not be 100% perfect, there's that silver lining to everything. And I think that's really what we mean when we say try to see how you can frame it in your head. It's not necessarily that you are just pretending that everything's okay, but it's more thinking, okay, at this present moment, what is the most important to me? And to the person who wrote in, if feeling really self actualized and feeling really passionate about a career is what you want, start to ask those kind of soul searching questions. But if you are feeling like maybe there's another aspect of your life that's kind of needing a little bit of work, or you're wanting to have a family and your job is fitting what that needs for right now, maybe that is your priority.
So trade-offs. I think that's the biggest thing when I'm trying to sort out what my next move is going to be, is I really try to think about those trade-offs. And over the years, I've used a process where I stack rank the trade-offs, you know, money, time with family, try to put those in an order so that I can remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because in a lot of cases, when I'm feeling uncomfortable about work, it's because I'm forgetting why I'm doing what I'm doing and what's important. So having a process for doing that, that's part of why I've always talked about the days of the week and the month and all things. A lot of that is just trying to remember, where am I? What am I doing? The newsletter is part of that. Like, get your bearings and say, okay, wait, no, I'm in exactly the right place. I had a hard day. This was a hard week. Sometimes there's seasons that are really busy. Like, for instance, in banking, you would be really busy with things in the spring when company financial statements would come out and things like that. You'd have to remember there's going to be ebbs and flow. Sometimes you're just caught in one of those and you just forget.
And you start to spiral. Yeah.
And so I think it's this constant kind of reminding yourself in your head, but also having other people. The other thing that came to mind is that in a lot of cases, it's not 100% about the job. It's about who. It's about the people. It's about who are you working for? Do they trust you? Are they treating you well? Do you feel like you're getting what you need there? And if you're not, then go find what you need. Figure out how to put this in perspective. But I think we underestimate that in a lot of cases because we think it can't be that obvious that it's just about like who you're working for and with. But that is a big part of the whole equation. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, like, that was something that was always so great about Disney, was I built connections who began to trust me. And so when I was making moves in my career when I was working at Disney, it was less so about my skill set and it was more about who knew me because they knew that I was adaptable and willing to learn. And they knew that I was semi competent and could figure out how to learn if I needed to. So, like, when I was getting new opportunities, it was, like you said, who was I working for? It was all these people that I was working for that helped kind of clear up the path for me and were so supportive of me. That was the best part of working there, was there were people that really helped kind of guide your path because they knew you and they would hear opportunities and think, oh, here you go. Like, this might be interesting about kind of getting tapped. And that wasn't necessarily what was happening for me. It was more just people knew me, people had worked with me before. They trusted me, saw opportunities, and wanted to help me with growth. And same thing in my company now that I work for. It's like, I think that the people that I work with, now we have this trust with one another. They're there for me for other opportunities and things like that. And it's not necessarily that they're tapping me, but more just that they're invested in my development. And that's a great feeling to have because if your people that you're working for and with are not interested in your development or your growth or anything, that can be, if you're not in a place that you can grow, you're just going to stay in the same place forever, you know, and that's, I think that's where a lot of job dissatisfaction comes in. So I think if you are in one of those situations, it's definitely time to take a look in the mirror and think, is this the right job for me? Am I in the right company? Because it might not be even that the company or that the work that you're doing is something you hate. More, it's just, is this the right place for me to be working?
Right. And that's where you can't get that from within the company. That's why all these people that you meet along the way, you have to keep them in your circle because they're people that you can go to and bounce things off of when you are trying to sort this all out. They're not somebody within the company that may think something about you because you're asking certain questions or you don't feel like they're supporting your development and somehow that's coming out in the things that you're saying. So that's why it's so important to have people on the road with you that are going to help lift you up and support you, whatever you do. And you can always go to them and talk to them about things.
And even back to the stack rank. let's rank some stanks.
It's really stank.
Stinks.
Maybe we have that. It's like, how bad is your job? All right, let's do a stank.
Not a stack ranking. You have to stank rank. How bad is it? name all the stanks at your job. Okay. Back to the stack ranking. I use stack ranking all the time in my personal development also, not just my professional development. Stack ranking, like today I was talking to a financial advisor at my job about my retirement plan. And he said, "Are you managing your overhead?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm managing my overhead. I don't have that much overhead." He was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, do you have any kids? Do you have a house? Do you have a dog? Do you have anything?" I'm like, "No, none of that." And I was thinking to myself, I was like, it's kind of sad, you know, like I rent, whatever. I keep my expenses low, but it's because when I do stack rankings on things, something I value almost more than anything is my freedom, including financial freedom and everything. So when it comes to your work too, start to think about what are the things that are the most important to you, because stack ranking is such an individual thing that it's like, okay, what are the trade-offs of taking a new position? Something I love about the position I've put myself in is that I do have the flexibility to just pick up and leave if I really wanted to, because I've kept my overhead very low in terms of my expenses, but also my responsibilities. So I think if you're feeling the way that this person is feeling in this email and you're starting to think, I want to make a change, I don't think that it's a bad thing. And I don't know if I would necessarily recommend just picking up and blowing up your life. But I do think that depending on the stage of the life that you're in when you're doing your stack ranking, there might be some flexibility that you still have the ability to make a change without it being such a huge deal. Right. So I think while we're saying don't jump into anything, we're also saying, if we're not telling you to just stay in a job that makes you unhappy, also are encouraging, if you get to the stack rank and you see that this is really not what you should be doing and it's time to make a career change, then go for it. You know, it's a brave decision. And I think just know what you're getting yourself into. And really, we're just pro making educated decisions. That's really the biggest thing that we come back
that are personal to you. It's not, you're not looking around at other people and
Right.
thinking you should be doing something different. It's
Right.
all about trying
Yep.
to get clear on what you're all about and what you're here to do.
Completely. Yep. Well, I think that this person who wrote into us is completely on the right path and is asking a lot of the same questions that a lot of the people watching our podcast or reading our newsletter, they're thinking the same thing. Everybody's getting really confused because they're at this point in their careers that you think you should have a little bit more clarity, and there's just not.
It's not going to get better. It's going to get harder.
And that's why we created this community, is because, and why we're so passionate about this, is because nobody really knows what's going on. And if we all kind of stick together and continue having these conversations, and you continue to ask questions and write into us, ask for help, not that we're able to help, but maybe we're able to answer and make you feel a little bit less alone. So
Exactly.
I think that's a great way to frame our sunset story.
We're here for each other. We'll get through another day, another week, helping each other down the road.
So tune in next time when we have another sunset story. And please, if you have any questions or you're just contemplating life or having an existential crisis and you need somebody to vent to, just send it our way and we'll be happy to chat about it on our next sunset story. Hey!
All right. Well, thanks.
Yes. See you at the next sunset.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Wow, what a great podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Join us next week. We're going to talk more about the ever-changing world of work, because wherever you are, it's your move. That's good.